Okay, so picture a crime scene. But forget the yellow tape, forget the physical fingerprints. Instead, the clues are buried in lines of code, hidden in deleted files, and scattered across network logs. This is the world of the digital detective, and today, we're diving in to follow the breadcrumbs they use to crack modern-day crimes.
So when you hear the term digital fingerprint, what do you think of? Probably your own online activity, right? Well, for an investigator, it's so much more than that. It's a trail of evidence. Every single click, every post, every connection, it all leaves a trace. And we're about to see just how those traces can be used to solve a case.
To really get our heads around this, let's compare it to the kind of detective work we all see in movies. Traditional forensics, that's all about tangible stuff, blood, weapons, things you can physically hold. But digital forensics, they're hunting for ghosts in the machine, emails, browsing history, mobile data. The crime scene isn't a room, it's a hard drive or maybe even an entire global network. And here's the kicker, the really crucial difference. It's pretty hard to make a weapon just vanish into thin air. But a digital file, that can be altered or deleted with a few keystrokes, which makes the investigator's job a total minefield from the get-go.
So what is it really? Well, officially, digital forensics is the science of handling all this digital evidence. And I want you to pay close attention to that word, science. This isn't just about being a tech whiz. It's a super methodical process with incredibly strict rules, all designed to uncover the truth that's hiding in the data.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about the evidence itself and the golden rules for keeping it safe. Then we'll follow the digital trail to see how an investigator actually builds a case. After that, we'll look at the tricky journey from a piece of data to a piece of evidence in a courtroom. And finally, we'll wrap up with the biggest challenges these digital detectives are facing right now.
All right, first up, the evidence and its keeper. See, before an investigator can even think about analyzing anything, they have to follow a set of absolutely critical golden rules.
And rule number 1 is a big one. You never, ever power on the suspect's system. Why? Well, just booting up a computer can change hundreds of files. But even more important, it erases everything in the computer's volatile memory, its RAM. Think of RAM as the system's short-term memory. It could be holding passwords, running programs, all sorts of vital clues. Power it on, and poof, that evidence could be gone forever.
Which leads us directly to the second golden rule. You never work on the original data. You have to think of that original hard drive like a priceless artifact in a museum. You just don't touch it. Instead, investigators create a perfect bit-for-bit copy. They call it a forensic image, and they do all their analysis on that copy. This keeps the original evidence completely pure and untouched.
But wait a minute. How do you actually prove that your copy is a perfect replica and that neither the original nor the copy has been messed with? Well, that's where something called the chain of custody comes in. The best way to think about it is like an unbreakable logbook that tracks the evidence every single step of the way, from the moment it's seized to the moment it's presented in court.
For that evidence to mean anything, this chain has to tell a complete and perfect story. Who collected it? When and where? How was it stored? Who has even looked at it? If there is a single broken link in this chain, a defense attorney will tear it apart, and the whole case could collapse.
Okay, so now that we know the absolute must-follow rules for handling evidence, let's see how an actual investigation unfolds. It's time to start following the digital trail.
You know, this isn't some chaotic, free-for-all search. It's a highly structured life cycle. It all starts with identification, finding every single device that might hold clues. Then comes preservation and collection, where they follow those golden rules we just talked about. After that, the examination begins. This is where investigators sift through absolutely everything, even recovering files the user thought they deleted years ago. Then comes the analysis. This is the real detective work of connecting the dots to build a timeline of what happened. And through it all, every single step, every tool used is meticulously documented.
I know, that all sounds a little abstract, right? So let's make it real. Let's look at something we all use every single day. Email.
Okay, so an investigator gets their hands on a suspicious email. What do? First, they collect all the related messages. Then the real fun begins. They dig into the email's header. That's the hidden information that acts like a digital postmark. It can reveal the email's true origin and the exact path it took across the internet. They'll scan the body and attachments for hidden data, run searches for specific keywords, and verify every single timestamp to make sure nothing's been faked.
But that's just one email. What about bigger crimes, like a massive data breach at a company? How on earth do you investigate something that huge, that complex, that's spread out across an entire network?
Well, this is where network forensics comes into play. Investigators use tools for something called packet sniffing, which is basically like listening in on the network's data stream, watching information fly by in little chunks called packets. They collect logs from firewalls and servers, looking for anything out of the ordinary. And they analyze the flow of traffic. It's kind of like having a security camera on every single digital highway and side street. Finding all this data is one thing, but now for the real challenge. Getting that evidence off the hard drive and into a courtroom, and actually making it count. This is a whole different ballgame.
So what even counts as digital evidence? Honestly, pretty much anything stored in a digital format. Your emails, your web history, your social media posts, even the location data pinging from your phone. A huge chunk of our digital lives could, potentially, end up as evidence in a case.
But here's the thing, and this is so important to understand. Finding a key piece of evidence is just one part of the job. Proving that it's legally valid, that it can actually be used in court, that is a completely different and often much, much harder challenge.
And here's the legal gauntlet every piece of digital evidence has to run. It has to be relevant to the case, it has to be admissible, which means it was collected legally, probably with a warrant, its authenticity has to be proven beyond any doubt, and of course that chain of custody we talked about has to be absolutely perfect. One stumble here and that game-changing piece of evidence gets thrown out of court.
And this brings us to our final section, where we're going to look at the modern-day obstacles that make this job one of the toughest, most demanding roles in all of law enforcement. The first and maybe biggest challenge is just the sheer volume of data. I mean, we've gone from devices that held a few megabytes of information to giant enterprise servers holding terabytes upon terabytes. Finding that one crucial file is like trying to find a needle in a digital haystack the size of a mountain. And the hurdles just keep coming, from both a technical and a legal side. Technically, investigators are up against powerful encryption, tools designed specifically to destroy evidence, and data that isn't even on a device but is scattered across the cloud. And legally, they have to navigate this complicated maze of privacy laws and massive jurisdictional headaches, especially when a crime crosses international borders.
To really put this data explosion into perspective, just look at this number, 2.5 quintillion. That is a 2 followed by 18 zeros. That's the estimated number of bytes of data that we, as a planet, create every single day. That is the ocean these digital detectives have to swim in.
And all of this brings us to a fundamental and kind of scary question for our time. With our digital world expanding at this unbelievable rate, and the bad guys getting smarter all the time, we have to ask, as our lives become more and more digital, will the detectives, with all their tools and all their rules, ever truly be able to catch up?